Alright, lesson 2, automotive batteries. Alright, task. Describe the construction, operation, maintenance of automotive batteries. Condition. Give information, construction, operation, rating, batteries, method, connection, maintenance procedures. TM98000. Learning event 1. Describe fundamentals of automotive batteries. Introduction. First lesson, you've learned electricity can be produced magnetically. Electricity is also produced chemically by some means of a battery. Batteries used in the automotive vehicle to supply electricity, cranking the engine, igniting the fuel of the mixture cylinders, operating most accessories. In fact, the cars are they now designed that they cannot operate without batteries, and string of the batteries are now how to keep them in condition. Vital parts of the automotive maintenance present day cars would be quite helpless and no use without electricity furnished with a good battery properly connected. We as mechanics, we must know with a great deal of battery to keep them in with a good working order. For the automotive batteries need daily attention from the operator, plus some frequent maintenance performed by the operator mechanical, as well as special attention in certain conditions. To do this part will acknowledge various procedures involved in either maintenance of batteries, nothing more than two unlike conductors immersed in the solution called electrolyte. You can make a battery in a few minutes if you have a lemon and a paper clip and a piece of uninsulated copper wire. Here's how it's done. Straighten out the paper clip with the cup of the copper wire with the same length as the paper clip, and stick with the paper, both the clip and the wire deep in the lemon as they will come close to but not touching. Notice if you touch the free ends of the wire and paper clip to your tongue, you will experience a single tingle in the metallic taste. The tingle and metallic taste are due to the electrons passing through the saliva on your tongue. The element juice is electrolyte solution. Steel paper clip with a copper wire have two unlike conductors. Action acid and juice combined with the conductors cause all excess electrons to build within one conductor. When you touch your tongue to the conductors, you close the circuit and electrons begin to flow. Almost everyone has a familiar with a common flashlight battery or dry cell battery. Battery consists of zinc light container sealed with the top. The carbon rod is set with the middle over the insulated from the container. If the rod extends with the top, it exposed with the tip of the covered by a metal cap. The cup is filled with a mixture of the materials to make up the paste like electrolyte with a carbon rod with a zinc case with the unlike conductors, which case the containing of the negative charge of the rod with the positive. A good flashlight battery has electrical charge of 1.5 volts. The battery is used, the voltage gets larger. Finally, it reaches a point where it no longer furnishes enough electrical power to do the job right. It must be replaced with the batteries, then instead to be discharged or run down. Construction. Storage batteries are used for the automotive vehicle with the lead acid type, what they often refer to as wet cell batteries. They open with the same principle as an open lemon battery with a flashlight battery, using electrolyte to unlike conductors with stored electrical energy to in chemical form. To satisfy the high current dependable requirements of automotive vehicle, the construction of the lead acid battery is complex. With the parts of the battery are described below. It shows the plate separators, plates, and active material in the figure 15 plate construction. The conductors are immersed in electrolyte. Two kinds of plate known as the positive and the negative plate. Both of the positive and the negative plates are a grid framework made of stiff lead, allowing for strength. The active method is applied with a grid bin paste, allowed with the dry, hardened like cement, then put into a special forming process. When finished, activate the material with the positive plate with the brown lead peroxide, negative plates, and gray spongy lead. Alright, connection, post strap, and the plates. Figure 16 cell group construction. Each plate has a lug on one of the top of the corners, and several plates with combined and positive and negative groups of the by welding these lugs to the plate strap, which is made with lead. The negative group of the plates are negative plate only with a positive groups of the plates only. And a positive group plates only. A plate strap is each of the group contained with the terminal post, which forms an outside electrical connection. Positive and negative plate group along the several insulators called separators are put in together to form an element. Thin separators inserted between the positive and negative plates prevent them from touching, short-circuiting in the battery. Internally, they are generally made of materials such as wood, rubber, glass, containing many of small holes, and so that the liquid electrolyte can pass through. When the assembled element consists of the positive and negative plate groups of the separators immersed with electrolyte is called a cell. The voltage charge cell is measured in an open circuit is about 2.1 volts regardless of the size of the cell. For particular purpose, generally just say the voltage cell is 2 volts. In order to obtain the 2 volt of the battery, several cells are used connected in series with the negative and positive. For example, a 6 volt battery will contain 3 cells, a 12 volt battery 6 cells. The cells terminals are connected by welding them to connector strap. All cells of the battery are placed within one piece container of the case of the divided into compartments. Compartment over the container for one cell with the bottom of each cell compartment generally has raised ribs for elements to rest on. The area between the ribs serves as sediment and space. During use of the active material, the plate gradually sheds and fails into the sediment space. The entire container is made of a hard rubber or some other insulating material that is resistant to acid and mechanical shock. Alright, figure 17 shows a cross-section of a typical storage battery element cell divider, coil cell connector, lead strap, and terminals and filler caps. The top of each cap is fitted with a cell covered with material with a hard rubber-like over the container. The sum of the cells covered are made with the straps connected with the coil terminals are exposed. On others, connecting straps are covered only with the two terminal posts are exposed. Regardless of the type of the covers used, each cell cover is fitted with a vent plug, which may be removed to inspect the cell or to add water. To seal the battery, after the cell is installed, the space between the edge of the cell with the covers, the container is filled with acid-resistant compound. Some of the form is sealed is used wherever the terminal ports are extended through the cover. The vent plug of the filler cap contains a small hole with a permit excess of gas from an inner cell. A series of the baffles may be built with the plug of the gas pass around and leaving the cell with the baffles, preventing electrolyte splashing through the vent hole. Also, in a many of the mist of the electrolyte is collected here and then returned to the cell. Batteries designed in tactical vehicles are waterproof. The vent plugs will not allow the water to enter the cells during forwarding operation, but will still permit a gas to escape. This is done by pressure vent valve within the vent plug. The valve closes with external water pressure opens to the release of internal gas pressure. The electrical power comes into the battery through the terminal post. The posts are tapered with the positive terminal and slightly larger than the negative terminal. The cable clamps are also made in two-sided to reduce the chances of connecting the battery in reverse. The cell of the battery are filled with a mixture of the sulfuric acid distilled water with electrolyte with electrical energy is produced with the chemical action sulfuric acid on the plates. Electrolyte also serves to carry with electrical current inside of the battery. Electrolyte of the fully charged battery contains at least 38% of the sulfuric acid by weight, about 27% by volume. Operation. Figure 18 shows the battery discharge cycle. During the charge of the generator charge, negative plate, electrolyte separator, positive plate. Battery discharge cycle shows the negative plate going to during the discharge, the start ignition light and horns, and then back to the positive plate and the separators and with the electrolyte. Now that you are familiar with the construction of an automotive battery, let's consider the chemical reaction that takes place in the battery. Battery cell is filled with a fully charged electrolyte, full strength, active material with a negative plate. Consider the spongy lead, lead, and active material with a positive plate that consists of lead peroxide. When the load is connected with the battery, electrons flow with a negative plate with a positive plate. The battery is said to be discharging chemical chain that take place from the battery during discharge. As the current flows, atoms of the sulfuric acid leave the electrolyte into the battery plate with a discrete amount of the acid with electrolyte, making the mixture weaker. As you recall, the atoms of the element are different, but the nature of all the materials determined by the atoms are then contained. Their atoms of sulfuric acid mixing with the battery plate will change the nature of the plate. Spongy lead of the negative plate turns to the lead sulfate with the lead peroxide positive plate, but also turn lead sulfate. Current flows contained with electrolyte will get weaker and weaker until almost all water. At the same time, the negative positive plate will gradually turn into lead sulfate with a so that they can become like both lead sulfate. Finally, the battery reaches a point where it will no longer supply enough voltage to cover the current flow of the battery, then said to be discharged. Chemical reaction of automotive battery can be reversed by the discharged battery returned to the charge side, but this is done by supplying DC from the external power source, such as a DC generator, running it through the battery opposite directions that travel with the battery is discharging. This causes the atom from the acid to return to the electrolyte, making the electrolyte stronger. The acid atom leaves from the battery plates. The plate changes back to their original nature, spongy lead and lead peroxide. As the battery is charged, some of the water electrolyte is broken down, passes off of the form of the gas, and changing. If charging is continued after the battery is fully charged, the atom of the gas is given off. The increase the battery overheats. This is called overcharging and can damage the battery. If the given off of the battery during the charging process of the explosive, it can be easily ignited by a spark. Rapidly changing with the discharge slowly wears out of the battery, causing the lead peroxide to fall off the plates into the sediment space at the bottom of the container. Sediment may build up high enough to ensure cause the short circuit between the negative and positive plate, but normally the cell will be worn out before sediment reaches the bottom of the plates. Specific gravity. The strength of the battery electrolyte is determined by comparing the weight of it equal to the volume of the pure water. Pure water has a specific gravity of weight of 1.000. Let's suppose that we compare 1 gallon of water with 1 gallon of second substance and found that the second substance weighs 2.5 times more than water. The second substance has a specific gravity 2.5 or 2.5 times of water. So the pure sulfuric acid has a specific gravity of 1.8335. Since the electrolyte mixture of sulfuric acid and water, specific gravity electrolyte will be more than 1.0000 water, but less than 1.855 than the 1.8335 acid. The mixture is generally placed in the battery specific gravity at 1.280, volume containing 73% water and 27% sulfuric acid. Often, specific gravity electrolyte is similarly referred to as the gravity of the battery. Also, as customary on omitted decimal point, referred to specific gravity of 1.280 or 1280. 1.20 or 1200, and so forth. Variation gravity third decimal places are referred to as points. For example, 122.84 is 4 points higher than 128, 1.280. Alright, your voltage capacity. The difference between the voltage capacity of the battery, the difference can be easily seen with the pitching 2 cans of water with one small with the other larger, placed from the top of the building, the water, both cans poured over the top of the building, the pressure forces when it hits the ground depending on the distance it falls. This is the same regardless of whether the water comes from the variable of the battery voltage, since the voltage electrical pressure, each cell of the automobile varies slightly only over the 2 volts. This is true regardless of the size of the cell. Not less than one of the cans contain 1 gallon of water with the other 5 gallons. You see the water is poured in both cans, and both the same rate water can be poured in 5 times longer than from the larger can. From enough viewpoint with the empty both cans the same time length, and the length can pour 5 times much more water the same amount of time. This is comparable to battery capacity. More battery capacity is obtained giving the electrolyte more plate surface to contact. This was done by making the plates larger using a large number of plates. Battery voltage capacity is different in each one with a definite effect on the other as well as the circuit. We know that the battery must supply with the current amount of voltage push just the right amount of current through the circuit. The voltage will also cover too much current which will burn out the bulbs and so forth. The battery voltage is too low, the current flow will not be enough, the circuits will not operate right. When load is connected to the battery, the current flow will cover the battery voltage drop due to the internal resistance of the battery cell. Amount of voltage drops of the load is affected by the following: large capacity of the battery, less voltage drop of the battery state. Charge gets larger, more voltage drop. The greater the current flow, the greater the voltage drop. As the battery wears out, active material drop off the plates reduce the battery with the capacity of the cup. The large voltage drop under load. An outdoor temperature drop of the electrolyte gets thicker and slows down, and action causes a large voltage drop during the cold weather. Alright, battery ratings. Current required with electrical system 2 vehicles is often different, even that require the same voltage. For example, the 1/4 and 5-ton trucks have 24-volt electrical systems, but the batteries are 1/4-ton trucks will not supply enough current to satisfactorily crank the large engine of a 5-ton truck. We can tell that the battery large capacity of the current producing capability by physical side of the just by judging a bigger can be hold more water. This is not exact measurement. The amount of water that can holds in is measured in pints, quarts, or gallons. Battery capacity is measured by the amperes per hour. The number of the amperes of the battery will be delivered multiplied with the number of hours the battery will deliver it. For example, suppose the battery will deliver 5 amperes for 20 hours. Then the 5 amperes multiplied by 20 hours will example 100 ampere hours. The ampere hour rating is based on nothing more than a method described above. The rating would change if the rate is discharged can change. Suppose the increase of load of the battery from 5 to 10 ampere, the battery would produce 10 amperes in a period less than 20 hours, so the rating would be less than 100 amperes. As you can see, the standard procedure must be used at ampere hours, so the rating will mean the same in all cases. Capacity of automotive batteries is rated with the standard procedure known as 20-hour rating. The rating gives the number of ampere hours battery will deliver the discharge uniform rate at 20 hours, the temperature at 80 degrees with a battery voltage at 1.75 volts per cell at the end of the 20-hour period. two size bolts of the two size battery, the type A, 2HN and 6TN, are commonly used in tactical vehicles. Both two types have 12 batteries. The smaller 2HN battery is rated at 45 amperes. The larger 6-ton X6TN battery is rated at 100 amperes an hour. Are testing automotive batteries. Through this, you the capacity of the battery to creep the some of the active metal material dropping off the plates, build up the hard coating of the sulfate on the plates. Because of the testing gravity of the battery, hydrometer may not always reveal the true condition of the battery. Electrolyte may strengthen enough that the battery capacity may be reduced to the point of available current supply is too low. The condition is detected to make with a high rate discharge of the battery. Do not perform high rate discharge from when the specific gravity of the electrolyte is 1.225 or less variation. Specific gravity between cells is more than 25 points. Our changing of the battery, which should be allowed to save several hours before a high rating discharge set. High rating discharge test instrument vary a great deal. With also performing high rated discharge tests according to instruction of the test instrument, you are using the test instrument to draw with a high current with the battery voltage read with the voltmeter during the discharge. The current amount of the voltage vary depending on the test instrument used. High rated discharge tests that are not available. The batteries will be still be tested with the install of the vehicle. But this is done by using an ordinary voltmeter to measure the battery while cranking the engine. Starter motor serve with a high current load refer to -20 technical manual for vehicles, exact procedure for the correct voltage reading. Connecting batteries in series parallel. As you know, the tactical vehicle's 24-volt electrical system twice voltage supplied with a 12-volt battery used. In addition, some of the vehicles demand more current than cranking than 100 amperes per hour can supply. To satisfy the increased voltage current requirements, more than one battery is used in each vehicle. To satisfy the specific requirements of the different vehicles, the battery is connected in series or series parallel. In order to increase the voltage, the battery is connected in series. Recall the series circuit of the current with only one path flow. Therefore, the same current will flow with all the batteries when they are connected in series. A series connection with the two batteries is made by connecting the negative terminal post from one battery to the positive terminal post of another, and the batteries are connected in series so they have the same ampere hour rating. The voltage source equal to the sum of the both batteries is then available to M at the two remaining terminal posts. The ample hour rating for all of the batteries connected in series is the same as the smallest battery by itself. For instance, some trucks have two 6NTN batteries when rated at 12 volts at 100 ampere hours each. The batteries are connected in serials, furnishes a source of 24 volts at 100 amperes hours. Alright, in order to increase the ampere hour rating, the batteries are connected in parallel. The parallel circuit with the current that has more than one path of flow. Batteries connected in parallel must have the same voltage rating. To connect the two batteries in the span of the positive terminal, both of the batteries are connected within the negative terminal of the batteries are connected. Each battery will now furnish the half of the current flowing with the load ampere hour ratings will be added, but the voltage will be the same as one battery alone. The parallel connection of the batteries used in tactical wheel vehicles combined with the series connection is known as a series parallel connection. This shows your 4 series parallel, 2 series parallel, and 6 series parallel. Batteries are connected in series parallel. Increase the voltage by ampere hour rating. Demonstrate we can make use of series parallel connection. Let's say we have a vehicle that requires 24 volts and 200 ampere power sources. We use 4 12 volts at 100 amperes. Battery first set apart in pairs. Each pair of the batteries are connected so that in series they will provide 24 volts and at 100 amperes hours. The two pairs are connected with a parallel, increase the capacity rating to 200 ampere hours. Alright, learning event number 2. Describe maintenance procedure for the automotive batteries. Preventive maintenance. In nearly all cases, the early failure of the automotive battery is caused by the trace or a leak of the preventive maintenance. The proper maintenance, proper care of battery generally will give no trouble until they are worn out, damaged by accident or enemy action. Vehicle operated with the organizational level, the mechanic reasonable for the performing preventive maintenance on the batteries of vehicles assigned to the unit. Each time the vehicle is started, during the operation, the driver should check with the battery generator indicator located on the dash panel. Battery generator indicated with the tactical vehicle's meter shows the level of the battery voltage. The scale marked off in 3 colors: red, yellow, and amber or green. Ignition switch is first turned with the indicator hand. Will use only point of the yellow connection with the center part of the scale, and points with the red at left side of the scale of the battery's low state of charge. The hand point may point to the green scale of the right if the battery is recently charged at a high rate. If the battery charging is low, find out the cause, make necessary connections. If the battery is allowed to remain low state of charge for very long, the sulfate formed in the plates will harden and it will be impossible for the very difficult to return the battery to fully charged condition. When the engine starts with the battery generator indicator hand will move to the right. If the charging system is operating properly, hand will point to the left half green part of the scale where the battery is fully charged. If the hand moves to the right, half of the green scale of the battery is being overcharged on some indicator of the part of the scale red installed with the green. Operator should have the charging system check immediately before the battery and charging system is damaged. Overcharging overheats the battery, causing the loose water of the fast rate car can warp the plates and causing permanent damage. If the vehicle is equipped with an ammeter and equipped with the battery generator indicator, the operator should check with the position of the ammeter hand often during the operation. If the fully charged battery ammeter show the high rate of charging immediately after the vehicle is started. After about 15 minutes of operation, the charge rate should drop about 5 ampere. The battery is partially discharged before starting. The high charge rate will continue for a long period. If the ammeter does not receive the charge, the high charging rate continues. A large circuit should be checked immediately. After operating the charge, check the battery to see if the clean securely mounted, not leaking. The cable terminals should be clean and secure on the battery post. All vent caps should be present and tight. The battery should be thoroughly inspected and serviced once a week during the procedure explained below. Either the operator or the mechanic may be called upon to perform these procedure. Inspect the top of the batteries for very carefully clean if necessary. When they do keep clean, prevent the discharge, collect the dirt, and so forth. Clean and tighten the vent plugs, wash batteries, brush dipped in alkaline solution mixture of the bicarbonate of soda, baking soda, and water. Foam will occur with the reaction between cleaning solution, battery, electrolyte. After the foam stops, rinse off the batteries with clean water, wipe dry with a clean cloth. Inspect the battery terminals to see if the clean and clamps are tight. For the corrosion, if corroded, remove the cable clamps, clean the clamps of the battery post with the solution described above. For the reconnection for the tightening of the cable clamp for the cable and terminals, light coat with the general purpose of grease. If it's tight off the corrosion, dry dirt collect on the grease that can be removed each time the battery or clean with the terminals recoated with the grease. For disconnect the battery with the cable, always disconnect ground cable first to prevent a short circuit. When the connection cable is connected, ground cable last. Remove the inspection vent plugs to see if the vent holes are open and a short length of stiff wire run into the vent holes to make sure that they are not plugged, but be careful not to damage the check volts on the vent plugs with the waterproof batteries. Inspect electrolyte level with the add water. If it is low, filling instructions are located on the vent plugs on the cell covers. When correct, electrolyte will be at least 3/8 of an inch above the plate. Distilled water should be filled the batteries if available. If not available, the second choice is rainwater. Do not store battery water in metal containers. Minerals in water from streams or wells or from water stored in metal can be damaged and shorten the life of the material. Water is used in the drinking can be used, but only with distilled water and rainwater is not available. Battery will be damaged by clean water that has some minerals, letting the electrolyte level drop below the top of the plates. Check the specific gravity each of the cell of the optical battery antifreeze tester. Inspect the battery, hold down and make sure the battery is held properly in the carrier. The battery is loose, then bounces around damaged containers, shakily plates. Loose inside the cells. On the other hand, hold down the end area. Hold downs are drawn too tight and container might crack. Your optical battery antifreeze tester. Since the amount of the sulfuric acid electrolyte decrease with the battery, discharge with the gravity of the battery, decrease with the battery, stay with the discharge, decrease. By using a tester known as the optical battery antifreeze tester to measure the gravity electrolyte, we can tell this battery's state of charge. Gravity of the battery is affected with the temperature of the heat of the electrode expands so that it occupies more space. When the temperature drops, the electrolyte contacts take up less space, and therefore electrolytes weigh less than the same volume of cold electrolyte. Some warm electrolytes, low sulfur, specific gravity called electrolyte. Electrolyte mix formula known as the 1.280 80 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature of the electrolyte in the not surrounding area, surrounding the air. Ordinary temperature is not necessary to consider the variation of the testing gravity battery. However, the large variations above state of battery charge indicate gravity readings shown below at 100%, 75%, 50%, and dead. And then your specific gravity. Alright, other factors considered in the test gravity of the battery level of the electrolyte while the electrolyte is mixed. Your electrolyte should be correct level in the cell. The electrolyte evaporates. This acid does not. The water is evaporated enough. The electrolyte level of the mixture will be strong. The gravity reading is high. On the other hand, the battery has overfilled with the water. The electrolyte will be weakened and the reading will be low. When the water is added, it will tend to remain on the top of the cell, but should not test immediately after reading the water. Adding water mixed with it be added before reading of the battery should be charged 1 or 2 hours to mix the electrolyte before the optical battery antifreeze tester is used. Gravity readings will not tell the truth of the electrolyte, just as the battery has been discharged at a high rate. Such as just after engine has been cranked for a long time. In this case, the acid has been used up next to the plates, but the electrolyte near the top of the plates is still strong. The optical battery antifreeze tester will read the higher state of the charge that actually exists. The electrolyte will show the truth reading of the battery allowed to stay used in several hours as if it charged 1 or 2 hours. Measuring specific gravity optical battery antifreeze test. The tester is quick, accurate, reliable. No guesswork, arithmetic involved. The tester automatically adjusts the temperature. Plastic cover and measuring window must be clean and dry. Wipe clean with a soft cloth. Clean the eyepiece lens. Use clean water to clean dirt areas. Swing the plastic cover down until it rests against the measuring window. Make separate tests for each battery cell. Use a black dipstick. Place a few drops of electrolyte on the exposed portion of the measuring window. Warning. Be careful not to splash electrolyte onto your equipment. Pointing the tester toward the bright light source when you're looking through the eyepiece lens, you will see the rectangle of the two calibrated scales. Battery charge reading on the left scale, antifreeze reading on the right. The electrolyte sample will divide the rectangle with the light and the area on the shadow. You will read the scale when they meet. A full charge of 1.225 specific gravity for a tropical electrolyte, 1.280 specific gravity temperature electrolyte. Below 1.180 specific gravity tropical electrolyte, 1.225 specific gravity temperature for temperature electrolyte. Replace battery fully charged once. If you cannot charge it, then in the field. Alright, cold weather. Battery capacity is greatly reduced at low temperatures because the electrolyte thickens is less active in addition to the engine hardens harder to quick crank. The starter motor requires more current. To perform satisfactory in cold weather, the battery must keep it in the peak condition, so when the temperature drops, you will have to keep it closer and watch it on the battery. Cold weather, do not let the specific gravity drop below 1.250 if except the vehicle starts to temperature in the colder than negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Vehicles should be stored inside, whether it's warm and possible. If they are parked outside of the battery, should be heated during long periods of standby, otherwise it will not charge and have enough capacity for normal use. Electrolyte is the subject of freezing. The exact freezing point depends on the specific gravity. Full charge battery electrolyte will freeze at negative 90 degrees Fahrenheit. As specific gravity drops, freezing point rises at the table to show the freezing point specific gravities. Alright, if the battery if the battery electrolyte does freeze, the ice force of the activity material of the plate can crack the plates and containers will cause the plates break separators. If you try to charge with the frozen battery, the grates expand and shield the activity material. Let frozen battery thaw out in the room at a normal temperature before charging. The battery may be saved if the freezing has not already caused too much damage. If the water is added to the battery, it may freeze in the immediate mixture of the electrolyte. For the reason, do not add water freezing temperatures unless the water battery is indoor. The vehicle is operated at least 1 hour after the water is added. Tropical climates. High temperatures found in the tropics create the special maintenance problem you will have to adjust if you are assigned to one of these areas. Rapid evaporation of water will result due to the heat, so keep a close watch on the electrolyte level. Every effort should be made to keep the battery compartment as cool as possible during and after operation. Do not obstruct ventilation holes or heat will damage the batteries. At high temperatures, the acid electrolyte is more active. Using a weaker solution will give you good results and cause less damage to the plates and separators. Our electrolyte solution used in tropical climates should have a specific gravity 1.2 to 1.225, and you will have to weaken the solution yourself. To do this, drawing electrolyte for the supply, but this is already mixed with 1.280 specific gravity, adding battery until the mixture of specific gravity 1.2, 1.225, you need to add about 1 quart of water to 1 gallon of electrolyte. If the battery water was used in use before it was sent to the tropic, chain with the electrolyte in the following manner. Make sure the battery is fully charged so that there's no acid left in the plates. Remove the bugs. Tips batteries upside down to drain all old electrical. Refill battery electrolyte has been weakened to 1.2 to 1.225 specific gravity. Warning: be careful to avoid getting electrolytes on yourself and your clothes. The acid can be cause painful burns and will eat holes in your clothes. The following table shows the various specific gravity that state charge of the battery will weaken electrolyte for use of tropics. So specific electrolyte using tropical climate storage battery charge. When electrolyte battery has been weakened, the rating tag showing on the full charge specific gravity should be attached to the battery. These batteries should also be identified by a white dot about 1 inch of the diameter painted on the top of the battery where it can easily be seen. Alright, slaving. Normally, charging system of the vehicle will keep the vehicle's battery charged. Occasionally, due to the excessive cranking and repeated short drive of the faulty electrical system, batteries will become discharged. The vehicle of the field with not external method of charging is available. Will probably have the start by towing or slaving the electrical system of another vehicle. To slave the vehicle with discharge battery will use the heavy-duty jumper cable to connect with the dead cell batteries. Good batteries. The second vehicle, stay alert with the connection jumper cable to hook up the must always be positive, negative, negative, negative. Either vehicle with the AC charging system, the rectifier will be burned off and not entirely touch the cable's wrong terminals. Never try to slave one vehicle to another on the power source with a small ampere-hour capacity rating. In other words, do not have a 10-ton tractor truck with a 460 and 100 ampere batteries at a quarter-ton truck with a 2H 45 ampere batteries. This will only lead to more trouble. After connecting jumper cable to run the live vehicle with good batteries at 1800 revolutions per minute with a short while. This will allow the charging system to put a slight charge in the discharge battery with a lot more of the time with the crank of the dead vehicle. Cranking the dead vehicle keep alive when running at 1800 RPMs due to the power created with the generator. Remember, the batteries will damage left the discharge state for long. After you get the slave vehicle with the stated started, you make sure that the vehicle is kept in operation long enough to fully recharge the battery. If not possible, it's arranged for the batteries to be discharged at an external source. If the sum of the defect causes the batteries to discharge, get the defect correctly immediately. Alright, some vehicles are equipped with slave receptacles or slave jump cable easily plugged into. Both vehicles involved with equipped with these receptacles with a special 2-conductor slave cable to provide. This receptacle is provided with proper positive, negative connection. Slaving is made merely plugging one piece of slave cable into the slave receptacle of the two vehicles. Alright, your charging methods. When the gravity is brought, the battery drops below 1.225, it is best the recharging of the battery charger under control condition. The two principal ways of charging: a constant current, constant potential voltage. The method you will depend on the equipment and facilities available. Constant current charge is usually done only with the installation of regular battery shop set with electrical power furnished with 110 volt current with a supply with the high lines. It's 110 volts supply is usually AC, which will not charge the batteries. It must be changed to DC, usually done by rectifiers. After incoming 110 volt power has been changed to DC, it must be connected directly to the single 12-volt battery. Battery will be ruined. Resistance must be played with a circuit limited with the current with done by the connecting number of lamps in parallel. 110 volt to 100 watt lamp consume with 1 ampere of the current, as 4 bulbs will permit 4 amperes of flow. The variable resistor of the proper value can be installed instead of the lamps adjusted to be given the desired current. Cell-volt batteries are generally connected in series with the charging. The constant current method show the power with the consume of the current limiting resistant reduced when the batteries are connected. The combined voltage should never be higher than the charging voltage. 2.5 volts per cell will when you add up the battery voltage, all batteries in the same areas should be in about the same condition. Batteries can be charged and have the constant current method by checked off in particular in final stage to avoid overcharging. Battery charger supplied with the field with a constant potential type of the charging usually consists of DC generated power with a gasoline engine. They are 7.5 by 15 volt outputs and 15 to 28 volt outputs. When using a battery charger to charge a 12-volt battery, connecting a 15-volt output and load terminals of the battery terminals connections must be positive, negative. More than one battery to be charged at 15-volt output, they must be connected parallel. If you connect the batteries in series, the voltage will be higher than the charging voltage, and the charging could not force a current through the batteries. Alright, the charge 12-volt battery from a 28-volt output with the charger connected with the two batteries in series. The connected with the 28-volt terminal load terminals charge more than two batteries. You must connect them in a series pair with the batteries, and each of the materials groups should be about the same in the condition. When the battery is first played with the constant potential charging shift, the voltage is much lower with the charging voltage. High current and full flow of the battery is charged with the voltage increase with the charging volt remains constant. Cause of the current decrease of the battery charged with the taper off at a very slow rate. Least attention required near the end. Care must be taken to prevent overheating of the battery, but this constant potential battery charge is generally equipped with a variable resistor, so that the output is in some operator has some control over the charging rate. Charging procedure. Batteries should be charged only in open air, well-ventilated room because of the gases that are expelled with the batteries. Attempting to charge the battery through cleaning and inspection. Do not waste your time on batteries cracked or damaged in any way which make them unserviceable. Place good batteries on board wooden rack. Never stack them on top of each other or on the ground or on a concrete floor. Check record specific gravity at each cell of the battery's charge. Add water to the bringing electrolyte with a proper level. Arrange the connector of the batteries for charging. All batteries connected on one series pair group have about one specific gravity readings. Make the initial all vent plugs, secure vents are not plugged in. Unplug, then begin charging. When closely overheating excessive gassings for the first few minutes of charging, if either occurs, reduce charging rate for the best result. Battery electrolyte should not exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit temperature. Battery should gas very little in first place on the charger by steady gassing later on the batteries near fully charged is normal. Alright, check the specific gravity of the battery while it is being charged. Just how often would depend on the rate of the charge rate at 2.5 amperes at 2 HN batteries and 5 amperes for 6TN batteries is being used. Check for the gravity hour of the batteries near the full charge. You may reduce the time between the checking and checks if the charging rate decreases. Add water, plates lost during deposit during the charge. The battery is fully charged with 3 successive readings show no further rise in specific gravity. When the battery is charged, remove it from the charger, clean it from the top, remove any acid, inspect the batteries, and once again with any of the cracks that may have opened during the charging process. To prevent plugs and tighten places the battery handles, paint them if worn, and black coat with acid-resistant black paint. Alright, placing batteries and stuff with the new batteries you receive the properly charged and dry. If you have the fill them with electrolyte to preparing them for service. The instruction received with the new batteries on how preparing them for service should always be followed in general following instruction. Remove discard seal with the vent hole, the vent plugs. Remove vent plugs filled with each cell with electrolyte with the proper level. The temperature battery must be at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Let the battery stand for 30 minutes. After filling to allow the plates separated to become soaked. Then check the specific gravity of each cell. The electrolyte must be correct. The battery is now read from unless one or more of the following conditions exist. Specific gravity of any of the cell below 1.25 after 30 minutes stand. Battery will not be used for more than 12 hours after filling. And the battery is going in service in temperatures below zero. If any above conditions, the battery must be charged. If you have the time and the equipment, it's always best to charge the battery regardless of the condition. Ensure the longer service life. Ever charging specific gravity should be very near 1.280. Or when batteries are selected for the installation vehicle, they should be matched to the applied with both new and charged batteries. The two batteries are when 1 week or when they are placed in the vehicle. Vehicle charging system will overcharge the storage and battery. Attempt to charge the weak one, causing overheating, loss of water, stronger battery, shortening its life. The matching batteries, you should pair batteries that have the same specific gravity and voltage. And then they have your practice exercise and your answers. Moving on to lesson 3, fundamentals electrical test equipment.